In the 1860s, if you walked into any respectable European university and asked about the city of Troy, the professors would give you the exact same answer. It didn't exist. The scholarly consensus was absolute. Homer's Iliad was a magnificent piece of poetry, but it was purely fiction. And to be fair, they had excellent reasons to think that. Homer wrote the epic 8 centuries after the supposed war took place. The text was full of historical inconsistencies, and more importantly, no one had ever found a single piece of physical evidence. Then there was Heinrich Schliemann. He had no archaeological credentials, zero formal training, and a childhood obsession with finding the lost city. But he did have something the academics didn't: multiple fortunes he'd made in business, and the free time of a newly retired man. His plan was entirely unscientific. He was going to ignore the experts entirely, open his copy of Homer's epic, and treat the poem like a literal, step-by-step surveyor's map. Armed with vast wealth and a blind faith in an ancient poet, Schliemann launched a massive crusade to prove the intellectual establishment wrong. By 1868, that crusade brought him to the western coast of Turkey, to a flat, unremarkable mound of dirt and scrubgrass called Hisarlik. Standing on top of it, he read Homer's exact descriptions of the landscape. He checked the sight lines, measured the distance a runner could cover from the walls, and traced the route down to where the Greeks supposedly beached their ships. The geography matched the text perfectly. In 1872, the digging began. But Schliemann didn't bring tweezers and brushes. He brought hundreds of local laborers with picks and shovels, treating the site like a heavy industrial operation. Because he was using a poem to hunt for treasure, he completely bypassed the careful, methodical pace of a scientist. For Schliemann, speed and depth were the only things that mattered. His strategy was brutal. He ordered his workers to hack a massive trench, 30 meters wide and 10 meters deep, straight down the center of the hill, tearing through everything in their way just to hit the bottom. In May 1873, that reckless strategy paid off. At the very bottom of the trench, he struck a massive cache of ancient gold diadems, bracelets, and earrings. Without hesitation, he declared it to be the royal hoard of the Trojan king, Priam's treasure. He immediately used the discovery to bludgeon his critics. He draped his young wife, Sophia, in the ancient jewelry and circulated the photographs to the press, sending a clear message to the academics. Troy was real, and he had the gold to prove it. It was a total public victory. An eccentric outsider with no credentials had humiliated the experts and seemingly accomplished the impossible. But there was a devastating catch to his triumph. Schliemann was absolutely right about the geographical location of the hill, but he was tragically wrong about almost everything else in the dirt. To understand why, we have to look at this cross-section diagram of the hill's stratigraphy. Stratigraphy is the archaeological study of layered soil and rock. Hisarlik was actually a stack of 9 distinct cities built directly on top of each other over 3,000 years. The deep layer at the bottom of the trench, where he found all that glittering gold, that city was built a full 1,000 years before the events described in Homer's epic. The actual city from the Homeric era was situated right here, entirely within the upper middle layers of the dirt. Which means, in his frantic rush to reach the bottom and find his treasure, Schliemann had dug straight through the actual ruins of Troy. He obliterated its walls and literally shoveled its true artifacts away like trash. The very prize that turned him into a global hero only existed because he permanently destroyed the real historical city he loved. If you walk through the excavated ruins today, you can see the exposed stone foundations left behind. Later, more careful excavations confirmed the legendary city really had been hiding exactly where the poem said it was, long before it was mutilated. This leaves us with a painful paradox. Treating an ancient poem as a literal blueprint was an absurd idea, yet it was the only way the city would have ever been discovered, precisely because no credentialed expert would have ever dared try it. The blind, amateur obsession required to prove Troy existed was the exact same force that destroyed it, leaving us with one of history's greatest and most destructive archaeological discoveries.